I'm going to say something which I probably, I don't say a lot, which came to mind, which is in the position I'm in now, I think it was a real reminder of my own personal privilege that I think is really important for someone like me that has an interview show, because you've got to be like intellectually honest with yourself, or just like honest with yourself generally, that like as someone in my position who has been fortunate enough to be able to make significant money, I can understand from having that conversation how detached I am
from the world around you.
Yes, so and that's like an uncomfortable thing to say.
You're a very unique soul, because I've read a bit of your history, of course, and you've had that terrible period where you were, unemployed and what the hell do I do?
Shoplifting, food and stuff. And
you were ambitious, but you were, okay. If you don't experience poverty, you don't know what it's like.
Yeah, but even if you have.
You can forget it.
You can forget it.
But you haven't yet.
Well, this is why it's so important for me to have those conversations, because him saying I'm working 3 jobs and picking me up at 2 a.m. in his Uber, and him telling me he's doing that because of cost of living, because he needs to pay the bills, immediately made me think of ahead of this conversation today, like, oh my God, if the prices go up 20% for people.
He's out. He can't work 24 hours a day.
He can't work more hours in the day. And it was just one of those moments where you go, fucking hell, Steve, like, man, you need to stay close to the plight of people that are
on the bread line.
The bread line,
yeah. And so many people are these days.
So many people are.
In advanced countries, not just third world countries, but certainly like in America and the UK, there are huge numbers of people who are basically living from hand to mouth at the current system. So if we have a breakdown, they can't afford it. And in that situation, you can no longer use money as your way of deciding whether you can eat food or not.
I wonder if politicians know this, because part of the reason I say this is because, Trump is a very wealthy man, multi-billionaire, reportedly. And if the prices go up 20% at the pump,
he makes profit. I mean, he actually, when he said in favour of the rising oil price, we'll make a lot of money out of it. His immediate association, rising price of something that I'm indirectly selling, that's good. He doesn't say, what about people buying it? The people who buy it can no longer afford it.
You've got some food there on the table, which shows how these conflicts and the pressure they put on some of these scarce resources can impact our ability to go and buy food. I think you've got 2 bowls of potatoes.
Well, let's actually make it fairer right now. Let's get the actual distribution correct initially. So you are talking about someone who, in your situation, you've got that. Logan Uber's got this. And now you're taking away the oil price. That's going to make Trump better off. But he's down to the stage where, he's not too far from that happening. And that's what we've pushed ourselves into with this war.
Do wars typically make inequality worse?
Very good question. I think wars are created when inequality is bad. If you go back to the Great Depression and see what caused World War II, it was largely the collapse of the German economy when they repaid their debt, their private debt to America, or private government debt to America. That led to the rise of Hitler. Everybody thinks Hitler rose because of the Weimar inflation. That's what people normally think. In fact, when Hitler came to power in Germany, the rate of inflation was minus 10%. It was deflation. Prices were falling. Unemployment rose from very low to 25% of the population. In that situation, people supported Hitler. He revived the economy. I'm happy to talk about how he did that later. But inequality leads to people being willing to elect demagogues to say, we can save you. And then you get war coming out of it. What happened after World War II is politicians realised that people had been through the Great Depression, which was horrific, and they'd been through World War II, which was horrific. And in that period, people in America were talking about either a fascist world or a communist world. So the Americans realised they had to improve the living standards of the average American substantially to get away from that. And if you look at, in 1950s and 60s, that's what is called the golden age of capitalism, because at that stage you could be a single male supporting a wife and 4 kids and have a comfortable lifestyle at the time. That was where we started from. So the war itself led to a focus upon equality, a focus upon fairness and getting as much as you can to the poorest in society. And then we've forgotten that over the last 80 years. And we've now got back to massive inequality once more. So I think inequality causes wars. Wars in the aftermath make people focus on equality, not to allow that horror to happen once more. And then we forget and do the whole damn thing again.
One of the surprising things I learned the other day was that the country that is estimated to have the biggest reserve of oil is Venezuela.
Yep.
The third country on this list that is estimated to have the biggest reserve of oil is Iran.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, it doesn't take a genius. Funnily enough,
of 2 countries have added, yeah. The second country being America?
well, it says Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia, well, that's already an American vassal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's already they're basically partners with America already. And funnily enough, the fourth one is Canada. And if you're listening a lot to Trump's rhetoric, he said he was going to take Canada and make it the 51st state or something.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel to me to be a coincidence that the countries that the US are invading and decapitating their leaders are the country that have the biggest oil supplies.
Yeah.
And Trump has already said, immediately, he said after taking out Maduro in Venezuela, pulling him out of his bed with his wife and flying him back to the US, he already said the oil's on the way back to America.
Yeah.
One might assume that much of the motivation here with Iran is when they were in negotiations with them, maybe they weren't playing ball with the oil. Maybe they were threatening something with the oil. And maybe it's such an economic risk.
Or maybe most of Trump's friends, if he has them, are oil executives, and they can see the benefit for them in controlling global oil. And the one part they can't control is Iran.
But I mean, it's backfired pretty horrifically.
I think one of the great sayings in humanity is it's looked like a good idea at the time. Then you do it and you realize you underestimated your opponent. You don't realize how difficult it is. Like you mentioned, you're talking about how being wealthy can make you dissociate from the problems that ordinary people have. It can also make you dissociate from reality in general. You don't realize how difficult it is to do something you want to have done. So all these oil executives and people that Trump socializes with could have thought, take out Iran, America dominates the global oil thing, we're all going to be rich. Okay? But they don't realize that Iran's been aware of this possibility for 40 years, and they're prepared. They're far better prepared than the Americans and the Israelis thought.
So you've got 5 scenarios laid out on these cards in front of you here that you think could happen next. I'm going to ask you to explain to me what the 5 scenarios are, and then tell me which one you think is most likely to occur.
So scenario 1, which is the one that I think I think Israel wants this one. Iran is destroyed. Okay. If that happens, we're all gone. Because to destroy Iran, you're going to have to use nuclear weapons.